Just because we don't have a chair elected yet, I'll call the meeting to order for the Fire and EMS Possible Merger Review Subcommittee. Today is Thursday, August 15th. It's 2 o'clock, and we are at Safer Station 1. And we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sharon, could you call the roll?
Schaefer?
Here.
Cronin?
Here.
Schrem?
Here.
Dunst?
Here.
Why don't we just go around and just do introductions just in case, so everyone knows everyone. Chief, do you want to start?
Sure. Josh Finke, I'm the fire chief here at Safer District.
Cheryl Latimer, admin assistant here at Safer.
Eric Lang, I'm deputy fire chief at Safer.
Scott Dunst, Alderman, City of Schofield.
Dylan Green, captain of operations at Riverside.
Jared Linke, captain at Riverside.
Phil Schramm from Rothschild. Ryan Vanderwall, the village administrator of Rothschild.
Jamie Gabert, I'm the administrator for the Village of Weston.
Steve Cronin, I'm a trustee for the Village of Weston and a member of the Safer Board of Directors.
Galen Roden, village administrator for the Village of Red Mountain.
Fred Schaefer, trustee, Village of Red Mountain, and also on the Safer Board.
Thank you. So item number 4 would be nomination and election of a president or chair for the review subcommittee, someone that would help just to lead the meetings.
Any volunteers?
Was
If
that
not,
volunteering?
I have no problem running it if no one else wants to step up to the plate.
Do you want a political person or an administrative person to do it?
It does not matter to me.
If you want to do it, I'll nominate Steve.
Okay.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second for trustee Cronin. Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Okay. If there's no discussion, we'll vote on the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. I will leave it to you to chair the rest of the meeting.
All right. So number 5, nomination and election of a vice president for the review subcommittee.
Any suggestion for Riverside? Or Schofield or Rothschild?
Sure. I'll take it.
Can we have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Okay. So motion by Schaefer, seconded by Schrem. Okay. On the question, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So carried. Item number 6, correspondence, comments from the audience. Do we have anybody online or in the audience that wishes to make a comment? No, nobody with their hands up or anything? Okay. Moving on. Item number 7, discussion on how the fire district would operate. Subsection A, presentation of pros and cons to the communities.
Okay, so I have just kind of a 30,000-foot overview here. This is pretty short. Depending on discussion and questions, it'll probably only take 15 minutes or so to go through. Obviously, some of these things will probably drill down to deeper as we move further through this, but I just kind of wanted to give some of the mostly benefits. There are some potential downfalls that I have listed in here also, and then hopefully we can spur some discussion off of that. So first off, there's a lot of challenges. I'm sure everybody in this room knows that for fire and EMS, not only in Wisconsin, but around the country. So all of the information I have up here is from a study that was done in 2023 by the Office of Rural Health. So I'm not going to go through and read every bullet point here, but there are many agencies across the state that suffer. And I think the biggest one is the 4th or 5th bullet point down there where, again, this is 2023 data, but there were 10 agencies in the state that during 2022 and into 2023, 10 calls went in the state of Wisconsin that nobody ever responded to. So 10 people called for an ambulance that they never got an ambulance. And that isn't just a Wisconsin problem. There's been other issues of that across the country that have made national news. There's a lot of agencies that are short on funding. I think everybody in the room understands that difficulty. And then the other one that we see a lot around here, especially with our outlying rural services, and I'm sure the Riverside guys see the same things on intercepts, but 41% of agencies in the state said they have 6 or fewer staff that respond to 80% of their calls. And the other thing that we see that is not up here, but I know it's in part of this report, if anybody wants the full report that hasn't seen it already, I'm happy to share that. But the other thing that we see is that the population of EMTs in some of the rural communities especially is aging. It's not uncommon for us to see people in their 70s in the back of an ambulance. And we've talked to some of them, and some of them say, I feel like I can't leave because they don't think there's anybody else there. So neither one of the agencies that we're talking about here today really see that, but I think I'm just trying to look at the bigger picture of the challenges that we see every day. So again, I think other people could have input onto this, but this is kind of the way I see things as keys to a successful district. So I think the safer district, and I'm assuming Riverside also was formed for multiple different reasons, but one of those is fiscal responsibility, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit more here in a minute. Employee engagement, satisfaction, I think those were things that in the fire service, maybe 15 or 20 years ago, there wasn't a whole lot of concentration on making sure your firefighters and paramedics were happy. It was be happy you got a job, come and do your job, and that's kind of where it was left. Those have changed. Those things have changed a lot. It's a lot easier for firefighter paramedics to get jobs basically anywhere they want right now. It's a very challenging job market for a fire department right now. So we have to keep those employees engaged, and we want to give them a reason to stay. And then service delivery. We have to keep our eye on the ball and remember the main reason we're here is to deliver service to our communities. So fiscal responsibility, combined district, significantly reduced capital expenses. Now I will say that I don't think operationally districts save a ton of money every year. I think there are savings, but I don't think there's massive savings operationally every year. But where there are savings, which I'll get into a little bit deeper here in just a minute, is capital expenses. Safer has experienced that a lot already in the last decade. And again, I'm sure Riverside probably has as well. Reduce redundancy in things for contracts such as IT, equipment maintenance. We have a lot of, I'm going to call them small contracts, but they're actually bigger contracts, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 for things like cot maintenance, our defibrillators, our SCBAs, our rescue tools. All of those things have to have annual contracts. And again, they're not $200 or $300. Our contracts just to maintain our cots it's $20,000 a year. So those things all start to add up pretty quickly. Increased buying power. We've been able now. We have a contract, not a contract, but we have an agreement where we buy at least 60% of our EMS supplies from one company. They give us a lower rate. They give us free software to use every year to help track those things. So there's increased buying power through these larger organizations as well. And then we reduce duplication of services. So since 2014, so again over the last decade, this is a list of equipment that the two separate departments, being Rib Mountain and Weston, had that would have had to been replaced since we merged. And these are pieces of apparatus that have since been sold, or they were past their expected life. We sold them and we just didn't replace them because we didn't need to. We're sharing resources now. So all of those added together is $4.2 million, and I figured everything pretty conservatively. Those are not fancy engines, or those are pretty conservative numbers. Plus all of the maintenance. Maintenance on those items is expensive. Testing, all of those trucks have to have pump testing every year, annual maintenance, DOT testing, plus it's their general maintenance, brakes, tires, all those types of things. And then the loose equipment that has to go on those trucks, hose, rescue tools, multiple different things. So there is savings well above that $4.2 million. The next part, employee engagement and satisfaction. And I think a couple of these bullet points could probably be disputed, but larger district does bring some advantages that I see potentially for recruitment and retention. So a larger pool of employees allows for rotation off of EMS apparatus. I will tell you that's something that Safer has a challenge with right now. Our paramedics run pretty hard. We have a mix of paramedics and EMTs. We probably could use another 5 to 6 paramedics in the mix to try to get some of our paramedics off the ambulance. Right now, the vast majority of our paramedics are on the ambulance every single shift, 48 hours in a row, and they do not get the opportunity to rotate off. When we talk about employee recruitment, paramedics want the ability to rotate off that ambulance and get onto a piece of fire apparatus for part of their shift. Okay, they also want to be firefighters. They want to get a little break from the ambulance constantly. So that's something that a larger pool of employees can definitely bring. Wider range of specialty skill sets such as technical rescue, so we can perform those skills and deliver them to our communities at a higher level than we do currently. Usually mid to larger size departments have a little better opportunity to recruit firefighters and EMTs. All departments are struggling right now, but typically you're in Wisconsin, your Eau Claires and Appletons and those type of departments have a little bit easier job recruiting than smaller agencies do. And then we also have more opportunity for advancement. So employees like to stay when they feel like they have an opportunity to work their way up the chain. If they see that they hit things just right where they're going to be here for 15 years and there might be one opening for advancement in 15 years, that gives them the opportunity to look elsewhere where there's better opportunity for moving up the chain. Service delivery, like I said earlier, this is really the reason we're here. All of the district communities, so all 4 of the communities that we're discussing today would have opportunity for better coverage. So every community that we're talking about has corners of their municipalities that could actually be served quicker by another region. Like there's parts of Weston that are actually closer to Riverside Station. There are parts of Schofield that are actually closer to Safer Station in Weston. If there's multiple ambulance calls and the ambulance at this station is currently out, instead of waiting for the ambulance to come from Weston over here, it could come from the current Riverside Station. There's just a ton of overlap that all of the communities that we're discussing would have better coverage. Better ability to provide interfacility transports. Both of our agencies currently do that. Again, larger pool of people, we could do that better than we currently do. Increased oversight and management of EMS. Right now we have a part-time, her title is Director of Medical Services. There could be potential of moving that position to a full-time position. I'm sure you guys have some type of staff that multitasks and does oversight of EMS, but not anybody dedicated to it currently. Safer did have a full-time position dedicated to EMS oversight. That position was reduced to part-time 2 years ago. I can tell you right now our part-time person is trying to do a full-time job on part-time hours, and she's struggling to do that. EMS is obviously 80 to 90% of what we do on a daily basis. EMS becomes more and more complex every year. We do more skills, there's more oversight, there's more medical, legal, ethical things that we need to look at, so it's really a big position. And then more effective fire prevention investigation activities. Right now we currently have 1 full-time fire marshal, and then we have a part-time fire inspector. At Safer, I believe Riverside does their fire inspections with their daily duty crews, which is difficult to do. We used to do that, but as call volume goes up, it's very difficult to keep up with that. And there's really a lot more to doing fire inspections than just going and making sure. I think a lot of people think, well, they come in and check our extinguishers and make sure the exit lights are on. It's really way more complex than that. So not only fire prevention, the other thing is investigation. I know we currently don't do as good a job as we could or should with fire investigations. And I'm going to assume that Riverside is probably in the same boat just because we don't have the resources. We currently have 1 person that is certified through DCI to perform fire investigations. We have 2 more that are going to be going to training this fall. So that's another program that we could develop and help with those, potential arson fires and suspicious fires and those things of that nature. So possible negatives. I think that the potential negatives, in my opinion, and some of this is obviously opinionated, but I think they're very small. So the 2 big things that I think when these things get looked at is a loss of local control. From a political standpoint, I think every municipality likes to have control over their fire department, which I can fully understand. And then loss of identity. I think the 2 things there is again, remember there's seats at the table for board members to express their feelings on how the district should be operated. And loss of identity, I think that's maybe a little bit easier with this discussion. The city names are already off of the vehicles of the departments we're talking about here. I know that was a hurdle for Safer to get over when Red Mountain and Weston first started. I will tell you, I was not here at the very beginning, but I came in fairly shortly after, and there were definitely some hurdles for the first, I would say, 12 to 18 months, maybe even a little bit longer. Those things are definitely gone now, and things from that standpoint operate very smoothly. But in my mind, those are really the 2 things that came up when I thought about potential negatives. So that's all I have. Like I said, they're pretty basic, unless anybody has any questions or discussion for me.
Anybody have any questions or comments for Chief Finke on this presentation?
Understanding, Riverside's just seeing it now for the first time, but agreement, disagreement?
I would mostly agree with what he's got up there, if not all of it, agree 100%. Every department is struggling across the state and country for staffing, so this obviously offers an increased ability to meet the expectations that the public has of us and offer additional opportunities for staff and employment and everything else, so I think that's fairly accurate.
Anybody have anything else they'd like to add?
For me, it's the level of service. It comes down to that. Without a proper level of service, without necessarily breaking the bank, because money solves a lot of things, but absent us doubling our tax rates, to get a level of service that we could get combined is really becomes the ultimate goal, and becomes what we just, me as a local official, I need to provide that kind of service to my constituents. And looking at this type of opportunity gets us in that win-win situation of the level of service we really should have, and that we can't double our tax rates because of Act 10. So it's kind of the only way through all of this. So.
Thank you, Fred. Anybody have anything else you'd like to add?
Could I just add one thing?
Sure.
The one thing I meant to say during this is I can tell you, I worked for a Mountain Fire Department starting in 2004, so I was around for quite a while. Prior to the merger with Safer, Rib and Weston had a auto aid contract where both of us would respond to each other's fires. I can tell you, and I'm sure Eric was here during that also, would agree with me, that without question, both Rib Mountain and Weston have better service today than they did when the departments were separate. There's absolutely no question in my mind. Both communities have a better service now than they did then.
And I would stand to say that the same is probably true for Riverside versus Rothschild and Schofield doing things on their own as well.
I would certainly think so, yeah.
So, anybody else have anything else they would like to add?
I'll just mention one thing. This is my third merger that I've been involved in now, and what happens is it's also about numbers regarding financials and the formulas that we use. So that's going to be an important factor in this. I agree that service is number one, but number two is going to be financially. Can we afford to go ahead and do the merger, and how are the numbers are going to look?
I would agree. Thank you.
It's one thing to say,
I was going to say it's a super segue to number 8.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Anybody else have any questions for Chief or anybody else here on how the district would operate? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on to item 8, discussion on funding formula.
So I'm not sure if anybody else wants to discuss this. I know that Riverside's formula is quite different than ours. Ours works in 3 separate parts. So we have inspectable structures, population, and equalized value. They each count for 33.33%. Every year that gets put into what I call the magic calculator, and that puts out the percentage that each municipality pays in for each budget year. Dylan or Jared, correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys have call volume, I believe, and equalized value and population, is it?
Nope. So we do a weighted equalized value and call volume.
Okay.
5-year span.
Okay.
What was that again? It was call volume and equalize.
Equalized value.
Yep.
But you said it's
It's a
weighted
weighted. Yep.
every 5 years.
5 years.
Every year or every 5 years. Okay.
Yeah, and the growth factor really derives from, from each budget cycle, what you look at is CPI plus 2%. So last year CPI was 5.2. So then you add the 2%, so 7.2% is that threshold that fire department or district has to stay within.
They couldn't go more than that.
Correct.
CPI plus 2.
Yep.
So
I think it's
you put a barrier on what it can and cannot do.
Absolutely.
Right
I think
up front.
that's exactly. I think it's if this is something that's going to come to fruition, I think a cap has to be set. An absolute maximum needs to be set.
From a municipality standpoint, it certainly makes projecting budgets, much less, it
Yep.
gives some continuity to that.
Is there ability for all the municipalities to override that?
Override the maximum?
Yeah. So let's say all the, in Riverside, all the communities the two communities in there, both boards say, okay, go for 9.
And you're saying that everybody, so if it's say it's a 7-member board, all 7 would have to agree? Or would it just be a
Or
supermajority?
you could do it 2 ways. You could go back to the boards of Schofield and Rothschild. I mean, I'm just wondering if there's an ability there.
I'm open to entertain it.
The way we do it is we set a budget at SAFER, and then it has to be approved by both boards. So that's where the check is. So if it doesn't, and we haven't done this yet, but if one says no, then you go back to the drawing board.
Sure.
So there's you're looking for a check by the individual of the spending ability of this quasi-independent group. And I get it, and you did it by a cap, we do it by approving the budgets at each of the municipalities. And I'm not saying either, like you, I'm not saying either one is right, because both are a check on the power of the board and no runaway expenses, which is your point. So, because we have an issue with Act 10, we can't spend a lot of money, and that's why I think we're here, so.
What about your capital?
I'm
Is
just
your
gonna
capital
say-
included in that cap, or is capital outside of that?
So capital would be outside of that. We do make,
Okay.
debt service payments outside of that.
How do you split up that capital or the debt service payment? Is that individually handled by each municipality then?
It is, and right now it's 66% would be for the village of Rothschild, 34% is covered by the city of Schofield. And they as in each municipality goes out and does that borrowing however they see fit that's best for their community.
That's exactly how we do
I don't think that's very different from what
No.
our formula is
No.
percentage-wise either.
it. No,
It's
pretty
very
close.
similar.
And
So what are the pros and cons of because I'm really open to figuring out this formula, but what are the pros and cons to doing, I see the difference is call volume. We don't do call volume. We do it by structure, which is potential call volume, and you do it by actual call volume. So, because you don't know in a given year. And that's sort of I think the thought because I was on the board back when we did this. There was an argument against call volume because it could be skewed. You could have a frequent flyer building just decimate one building, and all of a sudden you're up. And there's, I'm thinking about nursing homes and things like that. Those are heavy hitters, and that requires runs. But on the other hand, or a place that starts on fire 12 times, But that's 1 year, and then that skews that 1 year.
But ours is actually a rollover of 5 years on an average.
Okay, good to know.
So you really don't get the highs and lows.
Okay.
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 I think that when we actually merged with Schofield, we went into the merger open-eyed and tried to work with both communities as much as we could. It came to a point at the end that Schofield was not going to be able to afford it, so we ended up changing our formula. At one time, there was population in there. We actually worked with them so that it was a compromise, so that we could still. And it was right at the end. Of course, the problem is that you go through all these talks, and if you come to a hurdle right at the end, and the hurdle usually is finance, that sometimes you wonder, should we be talking about finance first, and how we're going to be able to do that, and then work out the other things later on, because that's the big thing. So that would be just something that happened to us in the past, and we were able to overcome it, but it could have been, all the work we would have done through the whole merger right at the end would have been out the door.
So is maybe a thought here is to run some scenarios with and without population, with and without structures, kind of 5 or 6 different options, and see what it looks like?
Well, I think we're going to have to do that, and I think it should be done early, and because I hate to waste other people's times if when financially that's gonna be a huge thing. I mean, service, there's no doubt service is on the top of the line too, and we need both. But I would say that financially, we have to all figure out how we're gonna be able to afford and make this work.
Now, from Weston's perspective, we plan to go to referendum in the spring. We talked about it this fall, but if we go to referendum in the spring, right, and that's, it's affordability is sometimes an issue, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, level of service, obviously, I get it, I understand that, but at the end of the day, if you aim for a Cadillac level of service and have Cadillac equipment, then you have nobody to actually staff it, well, what's the point, right? Oh, we got that big shiny rig, wonderful, it doesn't leave, what's the point? So I think that's where, yes, I think finances becomes, as much as I hate to say putting a dollar amount on somebody's life, that's not what I'm trying to say, but at the same time, you know, we all live in these communities, we know what it's like. You know, we don't want to see that, you know, increase, but at the same time, we understand, hey, you know, here's the service that I could get if this does increase. I get it, I get both sides.
If we're gonna run the different scenarios, I think we need to put capital in it too, just an estimate, or how do we figure out capital? Like, do we know what each other's departments have for equipment, and where could we see some cost savings? Is that part of the discussion as well?
I think it's a great point.
I think one of the first things to get to capital is that we would probably need to sit down with Riverside and discuss what apparatus we need. You know, what the two agencies together would need as far as apparatus before I could really come up with a solid CIP plan.
Apparatus and how you would envision structures to have the best response if it was
Right.
the entire, because those also will have cost associated
Right.
with them.
Well, and I think likewise too, you know, capital purchases, you know, that can vary differently from what Safer might deem as, yeah, I believe that this engine might be the most important one, and then in turn how Riverside, yeah, no, it should be this one, and
Right.
they can vary substantially in price.
Yep.
You know, you know, I think that's kind of an elephant in the room. I'm sure that we all know what we're talking about in the back of our minds here, but you know how one may say, yep, this is going to check all the boxes, and the other says absolutely not, and vice versa. You know, so I think that's another thing that really has to be discussed too. You take the emotion out of it, take the pride out of it, and let's just, hey, what can we do that's the best?
And I think on the formula itself, everyone here needs to understand Schofield's position. We're totally landlocked. We have no room to expand. We border all the municipalities on each side, plus the Wisconsin River, Lake Wausau. So we can no longer expand. So it wasn't that long ago when we had our own fire department, and we came to Rothschild and formed what we have today, Riverside, mainly a savings to Schofield so we could still afford fire protection. Much the same what recently happened is we were part of the Everest Metro Police Department. We could no longer obtain their service. There was financially no way with our income that we could do that anymore. So we reached out to Rothschild. We had agreement that Rothschild, we would merge with them, and before we finalized it, Everest Metro came into the picture, and now we are Mountain Bay. And so, you know, for the people I represent, the council, the way it's set up and what it'll cost Schofield is definitely going to be heavy on our minds.
I think that's a good point. It kind of circles back to what Fred's point was earlier, along with Bill, was, you know, the financial aspect. Really, maybe we should be focusing on that, kind of on the heavy hitter in the front. And really, and I think Scott brings up an excellent point. I'll be quite frank with you guys. When the city of Schofield and the village of Rothschild started the police department discussions before the whole Everest Metro picture came into it, I think even before level of service, we talked about finances. We looked, hey, can this work for the city of Schofield? Can this work for the village of Rothschild? Financially, we can make this work. What does that culture now look like? What do the values look like? And I know it's probably a little different. I get that, because you kind of took the emotion right out of it. And you didn't look at, you just looked at that taxpayer. Where is their dollar going? And I know that was the biggest discussion when we had closed door meetings off the bat with the city of Schofield was, you know, it's the dollar. And where does it go?
So one of the
And
questions always is before you get to that, you can't just take the two budgets and say that's what the new budget's gonna be.
Right.
Right.
You really gotta, I think Josh hit the nail on the head, sit down, chiefs, there's no chief, but, professionals get together and figure out, given this level of service, what we would like to see, the budget would be about X, again, not exactly, but about X, and then run the finance through it.
Right.
And then we can sit down and say, yeah, or, ooh, is there a way out of that X that you can cut a little bit back here and there to get to a good level of service? I know that we kind of looked at that way back when the two chiefs from Weston and Ramon sat down and said, at a minimum, all we really need is X. And they were pretty cost conscious. They're pretty two frugal guys. So they did a good job of that. And I know you guys will too, but come up with a scenario that would make sense for a good level of service that would serve both communities, and then what is that budget, and then start playing around with formulas. And we can all sit there and say, I want this here, or I want this shiny new truck here, but after a while you just have to say, we're still getting this coverage, because it's not about those negatives are real negatives, but we have to put our what we want sometimes in community pride aside to say we really want a level of service that we can afford. Right. So that being said, I think that would be a good step, is to get the professionals together to come up with an operating formula and a rough budget and a rough operating budget, and then run that quick through a bunch of scenarios to see what it looks like. Because if it's really expensive, we may be done here,
Right. And just a note that the way that Schofield was able to, we could work with Schofield, and Schofield actually, we did a contractual service, so they weren't in the formula anymore.
For
the police. Yep.
Is that the same, and I realize maybe we don't know the answer to that yet, but is that the same thought for this? Or we don't know that answer yet, probably?
The mayor took an informal vote that was not on an agenda, and the majority of the council members were not in favor of this, okay? But myself and the mayor and some others said, hey, we need to be open-minded, we need to come table, we'd like to be represented. And once we have some sort of a format set up on what this would be, we're very open-minded. We want to work through the whole process and then review it.
Okay.
I think with that said too, why it's fire and EMS possible merger is we understand as communities we are stronger together. That's why we didn't label it as Riverside and Safer.
Right.
Because as we clearly pointed out, everybody is having these issues. Does this grow bigger as we have the conversation? We don't know that, but that's why we also didn't want to narrow it to that.
Oh, I thought we were going to call it Fred's Fire Service. No? Okay, darn.
Yes, for 51% of the budget.
But I love that, If you want to pay for it, you can call it whatever you want. And that's good, because we have to put, the community sort of pride in the back pocket and figure out what's best for all of us as a group, which is hard to do. And it's hard to get constituents to think about that. But in the end, it's hard to afford this stuff.
And I think for me with the Village of Weston too, we're very open-minded as well. I don't think we're tied to the name that we have currently or anything in that aspect. I mean, we want to be good partners and make this work for everybody and provide a good service, not just to our citizens, but the area as a whole.
Right.
So the other thing, when we formed, I don't know what Riverside did, when we formed, the buildings themselves are owned by the municipalities and leased $1 a year to Safer. We maintain, because Safer couldn't afford it, we maintain the facilities. On a capital basis, they maintain the day-to-day. So, I mean, for example, this carpet came up. Is that a capital item or is that a day-to-day? We kind of thought, yeah, you're right, it's a capital item. It's over 20 years. So, Rib Mountain's replacing this carpet. So, and I know Weston did a lot of work at their facility, all capital items. And that was a way of, because we knew when we were going into this that we couldn't afford, Safer couldn't really afford to maintain this place and that place, and it came down to that. When it came down to equipment, we just threw in a pot. And there was a lot of arguments that Rip Mountain had just purchased a lot of new equipment. And it was a sore subject for years afterwards that Weston got away with some because they brought junk to the table. And you know what? I don't care, because we've saved a lot of money over the years.
Yeah, over the years.
And that I don't know what you guys have or how you did Riverside, but we kind of had to go, okay, to make this work, we can't like surcharge Weston because our equipment is more.
And newer.
Newer, better, faster, all those things. I comment about that to Mark Maloney, but just to him. How did you guys do it? Did you just throw your stuff together?
For Riverside?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. How do you do well, you only have one station.
We have one station, and that was a discussion, but we were able to come up with a solution to it. And actually, it's owned by both communities, correct? That was the ending result. So that was, and actually, that was a stumbling block at the beginning, and we knew it was going to be. So we merged having two stations and knew that we were going to eventually, within 2 years, we're going to work it out. So we were already locked in, and we knew we were going to have to make a decision. And it worked out just fine.
I think for me, when it comes to capital equipment, my thought is, it doesn't matter who has what. We put it all in one pot, and you know what? The people who should be making the decisions on what gets replaced and what needs to go should be, if it's you two, that should come from the chief and the deputy chief, whoever that may be. Yeah, the professionals. I don't think the board here should be deciding what vehicles need to leave and what needs to be. I mean, ultimately we have to sign off on the purchase, but getting to that point should be the professional's responsibility.
How would we deal with if we were to merge? That's the pregnant question, is we have an existing structure that's safer, and you have where your fire department owns the building. Have you thought about how that would fit into a combined department?
Well, that would be something we'd have to work out.
Yeah, I think some sort of is that another lease type approach? I guess we'd have to kind of walk through that together and see where we come out.
I don't know, almost like some agreement within the agreement.
Because obviously that building, if this did come to fruition, that building would have to be another one where, all right, yeah, I realize it's newer, so hopefully, knock on wood, there's not a lot of maintenance in the foreseeable 5-10 year future, but 15-20 years from now, I don't think that there's going to be something.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, and that's sort of what we thought about here is ours was newer when it happened, and we still owed a lot on it, but Rib Mountain kept making the payment on it, and leased it to Safer for a buck, because we knew that Safer couldn't go forward with us putting that burden on it. Weston's was old and not doing so well, but then Weston stepped up to the plate and fixed it, but didn't charge Safer. So that's what I'm sure if we could come to some sort of similar arrangement, that would be good. But if that doesn't work for your communities, then that could be a stumbling block, I think.
Well, the good thing is that the buildings are in the right spot.
Yeah, the locations are
Right.
excellent.
So that's
It-
positive.
And we do budget $10,000 a year for building maintenance. We do quite a bit of building maintenance. It's really those capital items we had a discussion over, like the carpet. At one point, we had a discussion if we have to replace windows, like how do we do that? Because, I mean, it could be $50,000 to replace the windows in this building, and just the burden on the budget would be pretty high. But we do budget an amount of money. It was agreed upon in the charter on how much we pay before it's a capital cost on the building.
Is your ownership of your building split the same way, or is it 50/50? It's, okay, it's the 66-34 around there, okay.
Yeah, well, 666,
Yeah.
just keep it even.
Basically, that's what it is for the fire truck.
Yeah, with the ladder truck.
The ladder truck.
Exact same approach.
The new ladder truck that's on our, the double axle Quint.
It's a 107-foot dual axle.
Quint.
Okay. Okay.
Stick. I think they call it a stick, I call it a quint. We used to have one, but it was small. 75. Okay.
Any other immediate thoughts on funding? Anybody else have anything they'd like to add?
So the
So there's
next
a takeaway.
would be that the two departments would come together and have some conversation about what would be a estimated budget and bring that back with some potentials on what that formula would look like.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they need to work with the finance areas of all 4 communities to kind of theoretically to come up with, because what is your various, what is the run volume, what is the equalized value, what is all that stuff? To plug those in, and then we can, play with some if-then scenarios.
Okay.
Could be a good, timing is interesting because it's right during budget, but yeah, I suspect we could all get together and work together on it.
Okay. Anything else on funding? Or do we have sounds like we've got a pretty solid direction there. Number 9, discussion on fire board and fire commission makeup.
I guess my thought behind this one is if we wanted to have a discussion on how those boards would look, how the commission would look, who represents each community, those types of things. I know that would probably be a topic that would need to be discussed.
I imagine my understanding would be just like any other merger, where if you're part of the actual merging communities, you'd be on the table, and if you're contractual, you don't have a seat at the table per se.
That, again, that's up to this group. I just wanted to bring that up for discussion on how, right now, the way we work is we have 2 from RIB, 2 from Weston, and then we have 1 at-large member. Our at-large member comes from one of the municipalities that we contract with. Now, it just so happens that our at-large member has been the same since SAFER started, but that's just
But
the
the
way we do
commission
it.
is also the same way.
The
where
commission
there's
is appointed by each community, yes,
a- Correct, and then there's another member from at-large.
correct.
Mm-hmm.
There's a 2-year appointment, a 1-year appointment, and then an at-large.
Right.
That the board, the SAFER board does the
SAFER
at-large,
board does the at-large.
at-large and agree on it, where each municipality has a 2-year and a 1-year
Yep.
person on our commission.
How does Riverside work?
So we have, the fire board is made up of 5. We have 3 from the village of Rothschild, and then maybe 2 from the city of Schofield. But obviously that's a merged department, right? So that's why I'm bringing this up, because with the police department, the city of Schofield being contractual, they're at the meetings, but in terms of like a closed session per se, the city of Schofield is not part of that. And I know that that's going to be something that's probably going to come up in discussion, from my understanding.
Right.
And that's why I raised that now is, I was not at that city of Schofield meeting when they had discussed the fire department portion, so I don't want to speak for that, but if there's anything, Scott, you wanted to say on that,
Well, I think, there is some sour grapes with some of the older people that we don't get a vote.
Sure.
But again, it was all about the money and our cost and the service we were going to get. And the only way when it was all said and done that we could come to agreement was to end up the way we did.
And I believe that the fire board was that 3-2, but the commission was the opposite. It was 3-2 on Schofield, so that it turned out to be equalized, that we worked together like that. So they had 3 on the commission, and we had 2 on the commission.
Okay.
I think our board was equal as a way to get us all together. Even though there's a disproportionate amount of cost, but that I think worked. And I don't necessarily agree 100% with if you don't show up, if you're contracted, you don't get to be on the board, because we have that open position. I don't think. I really like the idea that there's a position on the board for a contracted. So because they should have a small say, let's say.
I agree.
And there's really, and I get what you're saying about the sour grapes. Even though you're contracted, and even if you came in and contracted and it wasn't a Schofield rep, it was Keith or whoever, you could say, hey, as the contracted group, we have one guy, so let's talk about that. And that gives someone a say at the table, and it helps get to the point you want to be, which is us all standing around signing a document.
Mhm.
So, I'm not saying they get to dictate things, and that's why we have super majorities as opposed to absolute majorities in our contract. So,
Well, so it sounds like both boards are 5 members. Would we stay with 5, or would we want to increase that? Can we increase that?
We can make it whatever we want.
I think one of the things we want to do here is start with a
Yeah,
base.
commission,
Yeah.
you may want to be a little bit
But the
smaller.
board, yeah.
Yeah.
But the board could be 7.
And with the merger of the two communities, you're probably looking at a new charter. Because our charter
Oh,
says one
definitely,
thing and
yeah.
your charter says another thing. Our charter
Yeah.
says if any communities come in, for every one board member that comes in from another community, you add, I believe, 2 from Weston and 2 from Rib Mountain for that offset. But that's what our charter says. So you have to, whatever the elected officials would want in
Yeah,
that charter.
That's definitely a decision that this group
Yeah.
would have to make, I think. And I think I agree with Fred personally. I don't have a lot of say when it comes to that. Obviously, that's more for the elected officials and the administrators to chime in on. But I think the only thing that I think may be a fault, and Keith is spectacular on our board, but maybe that if that contract person were to be on the board, maybe that should rotate like every 2 years. Keith has been there forever, and I think he will stay there forever unless he's asked to leave because he enjoys doing it. But I think maybe that could be a position that, 2 years, and then it's got to be somebody else, and maybe it's got to be X number of years before that community gets a seat at the board again. Just a thought, but I think there's a lot of different ways to do
Could
it.
have,
Because Safer has, I'm not sure how many contracted services Riverside has, but you have
We
quite a
have
few communities.
multiple, yep.
So it would be, Satine, it would be,
We have
Well-
Marathon, Stettin, Easton, Ringgold,
Weston.
Town of Weston,
Town of Gunther.
Gunther.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
yeah,
6. We have Cronin
for EMS,
yeah.
for EMS.
for none.
Okay.
Not that you're not doing a wonderful job. I wish you'd keep it.
Anybody else have anything they'd like to add on discussion on fire board and fire commission makeup?
If we do something, I think Rib Mountain would want it would be tough to sell to our board unless we can have similar, doing a 2-2-2 with a 1 floater. Or if Schofield comes in, then you potentially add, we could change that slightly if they're in.
Mhm.
But 2-2-2-1, and if you add another community, you don't want an even number, but.
Right.
That's kind of my thought too. 7, I think 7 would be a good number for the board.
Anyway, good initial discussion. And then you have to have the discussion about what, in the charter, you have to have that discussion about what's it take to get things done, and what can be decided by the board, the fire board, as opposed to needs to go back to the villages and towns for discussion. I think everyone's a village, all villages. So that's sort of the checks and balances come within that charter regarding what the board can and cannot do, and then what vote is required. For budgets, what's it required, and then if you go with a budget, then you probably want to have a super majority along with a cap, or you say it has to go back to the municipalities. But that also has some problems. When you get more municipalities, you could have one municipality hold everything up, and you don't necessarily want that. So.
What attorney do you use for Safer?
Shane Vanderwall.
No, that's what we use also.
I had actually just wrote that down when we were talking about charter. Because with Mountain Bay Metro, we did choose to go to a totally separate attorney that didn't have,
Ties.
fresh perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think is a good idea.
Sounds like another opportunity for cost savings too. All right, anybody have anything else?
We could just have Gen AI run it, I'll go, when I get there, I'll ask it to write one. See what it comes up with. You do?
All right, great. Item number 10, discussion on concerns from review subcommittee members. So I don't know if everybody wants to maybe just kind of take turns jumping in, or if you want to go around the table. I guess it's up to you guys. Why don't we I'll start with Chief. Chief, any concerns that you have that haven't been discussed?
No, I don't think I necessarily have any concerns, and I think that the thought of this was putting this on here is I'm sure there's maybe apprehension is a better word to use from at least some people in the room, whether it's from, fire department staff from either agency or from administrators or from elected officials. And I think if we can get those items on the table, so whether, it's something that I have to work through or, the administrators or whoever, that we can, kind of start looking into those things and hopefully offer some reassurance or come up with some mutually acceptable ideas, things like that. So I just thought it was a good idea to get some of those things out in the open at the beginning.
Okay. Chief?
Yeah, I don't have any concerns. I mean, Josh and I have talked over the last several months about what a merger might look like. My job is operations. Right now we're talking about budgets and things that I help the chief with, but on an operational standpoint, it's merging the two departments and having everybody work together. That's something that we will work out and figure out, and the entire command staff together will figure out exactly how that would run. So I mean, I really don't have any concerns. That's the way we've always done it. Josh and I, we allow our command staff to really drive the decision making for, we want this apparatus at this station, or we want this organizational structure, and I don't see Josh and I discontinuing that practice. So those things will all get worked out, down the road as we start having meetings with all the officers. At some point, all of the officers of Riverside and all of the officers of Safer will sit down and have that discussion.
Okay, thank you. Scott?
Nothing that I haven't already shared.
Okay.
I think just the one thing, we've obviously, all of our municipalities have gone through this once before, when Safer was created, when Riverside was created. So I think the biggest thing that I just want to make sure is that we learn the things that worked and we make note of the things that didn't work and make sure that we're doing this the right way and we're setting up, potentially the new organization up for success, both on the financial fiscal end of things as well as the operational and the service delivery like we were talking about. I'd rather see what is realistic and what is going to work best for the service delivery, and then seeing if the budget's going to work around it, as opposed to let's set the budget and then kind of get what you get with it kind of a deal. I don't want to see us cut staffing from either one of the municipalities or any of the departments right now, and I just want to make sure that this is we make note again with things that went well and things that didn't, and perfect it. And again, I think the openness of the committee and the transparency of everything so far is well received. I know from at least our department, we're very open-minded, kind of like everybody else is with how the process goes, and hopefully it continues that way. So,
thank you.
That was kind of my big thing, was transparency, and I think it's been going pretty well. We've met with Josh a few times and Eric, just kind of bringing forward some concerns from what our staff is saying, and then they'll answer it. So I think so far that was really my only concern and been addressed.
Thank you.
When I look at the big picture, and I think over the years, going from all these single departments and starting to merge, I think it's the only way we're going to be able to exist and be able to keep our money and the money that we do have and spend it in the right way. And again, I'll go back to the same thing. Financial is going to be huge here, and trying to come up with a formula that's going to work for all the communities, and actually so that we can present it to our communities that it makes sense. And so I think that if we can go ahead and accomplish that, I think we're going to be in the driver's seat.
Yeah, I'll just reiterate, I think financials are different because, one thing financials is year-to-year financials versus capital improvement financials. Capital improvement, maybe we're going to save money through it. Year-to-year, I don't know. I think that's something that needs to be determined. Staff makeup, and what I mean by that is how our leadership staff going to make up. Obviously, Riverside and Safer have differences in deputy chiefs, things of that sort. Riverside, I think, lacks more of the leadership positions because we just don't have that many staff there. So how is that going to kind of mesh along with personalities? I think personalities are going to be something that we're going to have to discuss at some point. It's going to be an uncomfortable conversation, but I think that's something that definitely needs to be happen. I know we did that with the police department. We had kind of, I'm going to say, come to Jesus meetings where individuals kind of let their feelings and their emotions out. And again, not the most comfortable at times, but I think those are the conversations that need to be had.
I would agree. Thank you. Jamie?
I had two things. My first one, I'm probably the newest to the community that's here, and when I was sitting here, I was just, like, I feel, I didn't think of us all as 4 separate communities, because we've worked together so much, and I thought that was just nice, that we have been in all of these cooperative relationships, that I just thought of it as one big team right from the start. The other piece, though, that I know has been brought up is just media requests and how going forward we would handle those. I know when we did our past merger, it was determined that it would be Ryan and I, and we'd always do them together. And we'll clearly have interest from the media, and we probably just want to have a conversation about who represents this group outside of these meetings, so it's a common voice, because we're in this together.
And who is that gonna be? I mean, have we decided? Do we need to decide? Because this is the kickoff, so it's gonna start.
I think maybe making some sort of direction, giving some direction right now about who that's going to be would be appropriate.
To you.
I think, my opinion would be at a bare minimum, it's Galen, Jamie, and I together. I think
That was going to be my suggestion as well. I think
You
the
know,
three
obviously
administrators.
Schofield needs to be part of it. I leave it up to you guys, but I think at least to have the administrators be a part of it. You know, I know media is here. But I think that's, you know, if we're gonna showcase to the public, hey, you know, how's it working? I'd hate to have where all of a sudden Rothschild gets asked a question, we answer it one way, Rimmel answers it different, that you're just asking for trouble.
Mhm.
I would
I would agree.
Okay.
Fred, do you have anything?
I think we have to find, as we work through this process, the no-go touch points and deal with them up front. Finance was the first one. I think board is there too, and kind of get over those, and then all the other stuff will flow in behind. And once we get over the points that are really hot points for, Schofield has some, every group has some.
Yeah.
And as the groups know what they are, let's bring them up first, get them solved ahead of time, so that we can, you know, in the end, it's like, which truck do we, you know, that's minor compared to some of the other major stuff. So, and I think sometimes we go to the easy stuff first, and we should go to the hard stuff first.
I agree. Galen?
Not much more else, just a time frame, if we have any, or we'll determine that as we go, as long as we keep it going.
Okay. My only comment, I know there was a comment made by Dylan about staffing, and my hope is, I think when you look at both departments, we're both having some staffing struggles right now. I don't think cutting the line guys, the staff, isn't answering any of this. We need more firefighters, paramedics, boots on the ground to respond to calls before we're a statistic that someone's not getting an ambulance when they call for one. So that's at least my hope, and I just wanted to share that I kind of share the same concern with you. So item number 11 is remarks from the review subcommittee to set the next meeting date, as well as discuss items for the next meeting agenda. I guess how long do we need to get the two departments here together to get a preliminary budget and how that would work?
I guess one of the thoughts I had, and I don't know what everybody's schedule is like, but I mean, do we want to just plan on one a month, or kind of a set schedule? I don't know if I'm sure everybody's got different types of schedules, but I can make almost anything work, and I know Eric can too. Yep. I don't know about you guys, but
I was thinking about, we have a lot of meetings except for the fourth week of the month.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because we're first and third and second, and, you know, our commissions, and I don't know about other ones, but it always seems the fourth month is good. Is that?
The fourth week, you mean?
The fourth week.
Okay.
I don't know if that's true for you guys.
That's what on our village board, we do the second and fourth, but, I mean, I think maybe just a doodle poll or something that can go out. I don't know, here's what works for people.
I say that too because we want to give them some time, so I was thinking the end of September is.
That's what I was thinking, because of, if we're gonna put financials and stuff together, if that's an expectation,
Give them a little longer now.
yeah, it's gonna be,
I think it'd be really nice for Cher if she's going to kind of be the one that organizes these. I know sometimes it's difficult to herd the cats, for lack of a better word, and get everybody together all at the same time. I know sometimes she struggles with that with everybody's busy calendars. So I personally, again, up to the group, but I think it'd be nice if at the end of each meeting we kind of have something on the calendar for the next one.
I agree.
We got everybody's attention in the room right now, and
Are your meetings on Mondays? Okay.
well, how does the 26th? But I don't know when the league conference
You're
is.
gone.
I know.
I am coming back that day.
It's in October.
Oh, it is. Okay, never mind.
Other than a 3 to 4, I'm open.
3 or 4.
I mean, we're at the 15th of August. I understand that it's going to take some time to get those numbers together, but I don't want to kick this out too far down the
No.
road.
Right.
I would like
Right.
to.
No.
I'd like to kind of keep going on.
yeah, I
this
mean, if I can get,
while we've got everybody's attention right
as
now.
far as us getting together and getting numbers and stuff together, I mean, 2 to 3 weeks I can have stuff.
Do you think? Are you thinking the 19th or the 26th?
I prefer 26th.
Yeah, 24th or 26th would be, either day would be okay, Tuesday or Thursday. Are you guys Tuesdays?
We are.
I know.
We're not on the 4th. The 24th is open.
We're not. But
24th works.
Or do we want to do something earlier in September? I mean, if Chief's thinking 2 to 3 weeks,
19th.
I don't know what everybody else's thought is.
19th is fine for me.
Yeah, 19th's fine for us.
Our finance director is coming back fully September 9th,
Okay,
so she's on maternity leave.
okay.
So this is the conversation, she knows some of this, but,
And I have a new employee starting,
Yeah,
so I have
that's
a new
why
employee starting
okay.
the 3rd.
so I'm thinking that 26 would be, it can be good. Yeah.
26th.
26th.
Okay,
Yeah. If it wasn't for that,
sure. I understand.
And what time on the 26th? Are we thinking?
Fred had a 3 to 4, right?
Yeah, so 4
Okay.
works or 1,
Can we do
2 or
Can we do
4 to
4?
5?
4 is fine.
Yeah.
Cher's coming back from a conference that day, so
4
it'll
works
give her
better.
time to get back.
Okay.
Thank you.
Same
Is
place.
that okay?
That's fine.
Yeah.
Do we want to have them all here? Is everybody good with that?
Or we can do them in different
It makes
houses
no
too.
difference to me whatsoever.
We go to Riverside or?
Yeah, I mean, we can open up our training room if it's,
We can do it, that's fine.
Yeah,
We can
let's
take
do
some-
that.
Why don't we do Riverside so we can see it?
Sure.
It'd be good to get a little tour.
Wait,
Make
wait,
sure
have
it's
they
clean.
not let you in before?
26th at 4.
Maybe
No, I've had,
Well, it's his shift that day, so probably not.
Do you guys have Zoom capabilities at your station?
Yes, yep.
Okay, perfect.
and every other square has a microphone too, so if you're whispering to your neighbor, everybody will hear you.
Awesome.
Same thing with that.
Heads up,
We can't say much.
text it.
And is it okay for Cher to send out invites? I like that, gets in my calendar. Is there- Okay.
Perfect, I will.
Who will make up any further agendas? Will that be you, Steve? Kind of make up their requests like we would do for a normal board meeting, or how do we want to handle that?
I think if you did a draft and you just sent it, as long as you acknowledged receipt, unless,
Okay,
Yeah.
you want Chief to do a draft or you want me to do it? I guess I was confused by what you're,
oh, why don't, if,
I'm fine with
yeah,
doing that.
yes.
Cher's gonna do it? Okay.
Yep.
I don't think it will be that complicated.
No, okay.
It's still general discussion,
lot of
just plain,
discussion.
yeah.
It is. I just want to make sure that we're on the same page.
So if there's anybody that would have any subcommittee member that would want something added, email it to Cher.
Okay.
Okay.
Cher's email is admin@saferdistrict.org if anybody needs it.
All right, so we have September 26th at 4 PM set as the next meeting date. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Scott, second by Fred. On the question, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So carried, we're adjourned at 3:04 PM.